Hello, my dear gardening friends. Summer is moving into our gardens. Heat and dry conditions are moving into our gardens as well. And guess who loves heat and dry spaces? Spider mites. So today in this video I'm going to share with you my fights which I have in my garden with those pesky invaders. Before we start talking about mites, I want you to look at this rose. This is my knockout rose, which is growing on the north side of my garden. And every year it was just a miserable performer. And last year I said to myself, okay, I'm going to take this rose down because I want to plant something really vigorous here, which will take all this fence up and will climb here. But now when I'm looking at this performance, by the way, all this is one climbing rose. I don't really know the name of this knockout. If I find it in my, in my book, gardening book, I will let you know at the bottom of this video. So now I am really on a crossroad to take this rose down or not, because it performed so well this year. And this area of my garden is filled with these gorgeous, plentiful blooms. So I'm degrassing into beautiful blooms. Spider mites. They are in my garden as well. And I'm sure some of you have real fights with those pesky things. Spider mites are not really spiders. They are associated with ticks and mites. And they are not really visible to our eyes. They are teeny tiny little creatures and you can't really see them. They love to populate the lower part of the plant. They don't only love roses, they love any plant they can grow on and colonize. So they start from the bottom and they slowly move up the plant, especially when there are dry and hot conditions. They do love roses too, and because we cannot see them, we can see the results of their destructive lifestyle on our plants. Very often we will see these bitten leaves, very tiny bites would be there, and our leaf would be looked like it had this kind of canvas of yellow dots on it. And when we turn our leaf upside down and when we scrape it with our hands, we might have orangey residue on our fingers. So how do we spot spider mites the other way, not just rubbing with our hands? We see those tiny little webs which are spreading from leaves to flowers to stems. That's how spider mites are forming their little tiny colonies. And if the infestation is very strong, spider mites can bring the plant to its death. So some pests in the garden can be kind of tolerated and they're not going to damage plants a lot. But spider mites are those pests which really cannot be ignored. Because, you will ask why, because they spread so quickly and their colonies grow so fast. I believe each generation is created in 2 weeks, I believe, so it's huge and they grow really fast if they are given a very good conditions. And the conditions are heat and dry spaces, and usually hot and dry spaces are inside of our shrubs. Densely branched shrubs, and in my garden I really don't have a lot of spaces where spider mites grow, but I do have one and I'm going to show you. It's my Japanese holly, which is growing near my rose, Vanessa Bell. Actually, Vanessa Bell grows near Japanese holly because Japanese holly is so much bigger. So follow me and we will show you my fights with spider mites. Okay. Now we know how spider mites look, what sort of destructive damage they do on our plants. Now, what do we do about them? How do we fight them? And in my garden, I follow 3 levels of defense. The first one is the easiest, very natural, very not intrusive into the life of the garden as a whole ecosystem. The second one would be more of a scented approach. And the third one would be the miticide. So let's start with the first one. The first level of defense would be we would try to eradicate those favorable conditions where mites love to be. Hot and dry conditions. So what do? We attacked those spaces in our garden with the help of water, particularly a strong stream of water. I'm going to show you, this is my Japanese holly, and it's a favorable space for mites to come and live every year. Give me a second, I'm going to bring a hose and I will show you how I do that. All right, here I come with a hose. And of course, my Japanese holly is very stiff branched, so it can withstand a strong water current. And I'm using this hose on power wash, and I think I will be sprayed here. Of course, we can't do such a strong stream on roses, but still we can knock out those pests from our roses as well. So, oh gosh. This is what I diligently do on my Japanese holly regularly. You have to do it every 3 days, because if you let those spider mites grow and become bigger and bigger, because the colonies of them become bigger and bigger, that's no good. And every 3 days or so would be a good approach to it. And who has such a time, to do it every 3 days, to spray with a strong current of water? So if you don't have that time, we will move to a second level of defense. One more thing, when you spray your plants, make sure you do a current underneath the leaves. And by the way, my Japanese holly is also famous for hosting whiteflies. So I'm knocking all that stuff together with spider mites. I can see whiteflies being knocked out too. If you don't want to deal with this spraying schedule every 3 days, then the second level of defense would be to use a special spraying concoction. And the recipe for the spray I took from a very experienced Denver Rosarian, and he is advising to use rubbing alcohol in the spray tank. So we use 1 part of rubbing alcohol, 1 part of water. We mix it well. We add to that spraying liquid a drop or 2 of liquid soap, because soap helps the water to stick to the leaves better. And we spray it on the leaves, on the sides of leaves, on top of leaves. We try to cover all the plant together. And that solution is killing spider mites. We do need to repeat that application on somewhat regular basis, because we want to catch all the colonies of spider mites, and eventually we would be able to conquer those pests. Now, the first level of defense, watering, wouldn't be probably a solution if you have spider mites all over your garden. Second level of defense might help you, but the third level of defense, if you are having huge issues and you can't control spider mites, you need to use miticides, and that's a last resort, because there is a danger using miticides. You can kill all the beneficial mites too, which are preying on bad guys, spider mites, which are sucking the life of our plants and roses. So if you kill with the help of miticides, you kill the good and bad guys, who will move in faster back into your garden? Of course, the bad guys, and then you are again in charge of micromanaging troubles in your garden. In order to avoid this horrible situation where you have to fight this invasion, this disease, that is disease in your garden, and gardening suddenly turns into this monumental task of keeping everything barely growing, I highly advise you to approach gardening as a very harmonious ecosystem where good guys live together with bad guys, and good guys are eating bad guys without your interference. So I would strongly advise you to stay away from artificial stuff, and eventually your garden will turn into this living ecosystem where everything will start taking care after themselves. Of course, we want to create, we want to avoid the monoculture in our gardens, because diversity is health in the gardens, and our grass is monoculture, of course. We have to take care of it, fertilizers, and do whatever we need to do to the grass. By the way, my grass is full of weeds and I kind of don't care about it, but I understand there are people who do. But I want to share with you a video which I took when I went to the forest. We have a forest on the outskirts of my town where I live. Ooh, mosquitoes are out already. And I was hiking there with my family, and I came across an old household. The house is already long gone. There are just fences, stone fences. And in the middle of that property, 3 old boxwoods are growing in the middle of the forest. I can guarantee you, nobody's taking care of them, nobody's spraying them, nobody's fighting any parasites on those boxwoods. And guess what? I have never seen such a healthy plant in my life. After roses, maybe even before roses, my boxwoods on my property are the most maintenance intense plants, which I have to protect all the time from spider mites, because it's very dry and hot there. All sorts of leaf rollers and oh gosh, you name it. But those boxwoods in that forest, they were amazing. So here is the video where I'm going to show you those boxwoods. Here we are in our local forest, and when you go inside, to the left side you will see this wonderful solid mass of shrubs, and those are boxwoods. So let's go closer and take a look at them. Yeah, I can't get to it. So clearly, this is a very overgrown forest. And when you look closely at these boxwoods, they are the picture of beaming health. I guarantee you that nobody's taking care after these boxwoods ever here. It looks like there was an old household here, and these boxwoods were planted many, many years ago. And just look at this health. They're full, they're bushy, no mites, no other insects, nothing is eating them. Talking about landscape balance. Aren't those boxwoods amazing? I'm telling you, I was amazed too. So this little video was in support of my claims that gardens can be run naturally. I understand it is difficult to switch from gardens which are run on artificial stuff, switch it slowly to natural stuff, but you can try to do it slowly and eventually not to use all the bug killers, all the pesticides and miticides and whatnots, and try to do it natural way. In this case, rubbing alcohol and water and a little bit of soap. And 2 more things before we part. The first thing, I hope you don't mind me filming a video for you with bare feet. I do like to wear no sandals, no shoes in the garden, and I hope you don't mind. I find it very relaxing. And the second thing is, you know how my kids call me? They call their mom a YouTube queen. So it's actually a request. If you like what I'm creating for you, please do subscribe to my channel and like this video if you liked it. Happy gardening, and I will see you next time.